Привет, друзья! С вами Наталья Смирнова, финансовый блогер и основатель онлайн-школы по личным финансам numbooneschool.ru. У нас близится Новый год, и поэтому я решила поговорить про альтернативные инвестиции в виски. Да-да, сегодня мы говорим про то, как частный инвестор может заработать на виски, а не только наслаждаться этим прекрасным напитком. Но поскольку я в этом понимаю ничего, виски определенные сорта я, конечно, люблю, но в инвестициях в виски я как раз ничего не понимаю, поэтому... Естественно, я не нашла ничего лучше, кроме как обсудить это с тем, кто про виски, мне кажется, должен знать все. Это Патрик. Но поскольку он из Шотландии, то, естественно, наша беседа будет на английском языке. Okay, so hello, Patrick.
Hi, nice to meet you finally.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Patrick Costello from the company Cask 88. I got into whiskey about 10 years ago, and the company I joined in 2015. We're based in Singapore, and we sell cask to private investors, collectors. We help people do bespoke projects.
And, for a start, if we say about whiskey, what's so special, what's so interesting about investing in whiskey? Because frankly, I know nothing about investment in whiskey.
Yeah.
How it works, how it goes, what's the minimum investment amount. So I'm going to ask you a lot of questions today.
Sure, happy to answer them. I think the first thing to say is obviously, what do you want to drink? What does a drinker in a bar want to drink? It's old whiskey, right? Everyone wants to try the oldest whiskey there is, and whether it's 50-year-old or as the pinnacle. So the principle with whiskey is to buy young and then hold it until it gets older. And as it gets older, it picks up age and value. Whiskey only ages in the barrel, whereas wine ages in the bottle, right? Everyone should know that. It's an important difference between wine and whiskey. So whiskey can lie in a barrel for decades, and while it's aging, it gathers more value in doing so. The best thing with whiskey, from my perspective, is that it's very passive. It's very tangible. In this world of pandemic, COVID, Trump, politics, this whiskey barrel just sits here. It shrugs its shoulders. It doesn't care, which is really quite attractive. Yeah.
I was wondering if, for example, many of your clients come from Russia or not.
We have a few from Russian-speaking countries, in Kazakhstan,
Kazakhstan,
Ukraine, one or two from Russia, from Moscow, but that's it. I mean, most of our clients are actually from Singapore, Hong Kong, China, mainland China, and America. And we're starting to explore more opportunities in Europe and Russia, because our company, Cask 88, is registered in Singapore. It's our sort of natural base of our clients, of our business relationships, and where the company started. And it's just branched out organically to other parts of the world. Obviously, Russia is a different language, different market, different business culture. It's not so easy to penetrate. So we haven't had many people contact us about whiskey investment. Yeah.
But I think those volatile times on the stock market is just the best way and the best time to enter the Russian market and to say to Russian investors that they can diversify their portfolios by adding some alternative investment. For example, I know that most independent financial advisors in the US, they would have a different way of portfolio creation after the year 2008. Before the market crisis, they would stick to the quite straightforward diversification, just bonds and stocks, and that's it.
Yeah.
And after the year 2008, they would add up to 20% of alternative investments into high net worth individuals' portfolios for diversification, stability, and all the stuff. And if we are speaking about whiskey, I think it's a typical alternative investment that could be added to the portfolio.
Yeah, I mean, many of our clients, they're same clients who are buying art, watches, collectibles, things like this. And it's definitely a recurring theme between the buyers. But I've got to, also underline that our clients often don't come to us for investment. They come to it as a passion investment. So they're buying this because they enjoy whiskey. They want to diversify for a bit of fun. Along the way, it might go up in value. It has done in the past, as we've proven. But people don't come to us with a direct aim to purely buy, I want to get X percent per year. We actually worked out that the average growth per year is around 13%.
13?
Yeah.
Oh,
between 12 and 13%.
Oh, yeah.
And this is all across, thousands.
That's significant.
Yeah, and there's over thousands of sales. I mean, this isn't, and it's data we've really worked hard on doing. We've actually made our own algorithms to work it out. We've charted it against other asset classes like cars, watches, Bitcoin, indices. And it's all very interesting because no one's done this before. Whiskey is obviously a 200-plus-year-old industry, but in terms of private buyers buying barrels, only in the last probably 10 years you've seen it actually pop up.
Okay, what's about the average annual growth if we're speaking about the whiskey investments?
Yeah, so the average annual growth is around 13%.
13?
Yeah.
On average?
Yes.
And what was it in the year 2020?
About 11.8. So
it's pretty stable.
Yeah, if you as you'll see in some of our documentation, the chart is quite stable against other things like Bitcoin, which can be up and down.
Let's speak about the year 2018, because that was an awful year for the stock market because everything dropped. Gold, equities, bonds, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
What about that year?
Well, our first index came out using data from that year, and 2018, 2019. Again, I think it was just under 11% as well. So
11 plus.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty.
But it depends.
Stable.
I mean, some brands, like Macallan, Bowmore, Lafroig, Springbank, were going up much more than that. Macallan has almost doubled every year in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I love Macallan, by the way.
Yeah.
I understand why it's so popular and so...
Yeah, it's an incredible brand, it's a powerhouse. And I remember 6 years ago seeing barrels of Macallan for maybe 30,000, 40,000 pounds GBP. And now you're looking at 600,000, 700,000.
Okay, so 11 to 13% per year.
Yes.
And what's the minimum investment amount?
People are looking to usually spend around 3,000 to 5,000 GBP at the lower end of the market, up to...
Just 3,000?
Yeah, for a new make, young spirit.
Yeah, I understand, but still, that's quite reasonable.
Yeah.
And it's...
Well, that's why, I mean, before, 5 years ago, when we first started this sort of area of the market, people were they were buying mainly high-end things, like Macallan's for private bottling for projects. And we did a lot of projects with big hotels like Peninsula, Shanghai. And private clients, and they were spending big money to get big projects. But then the market picked up momentum, and so there's this lower end of the market because it was much easier to enter. So 3,000 to 5,000 pounds is where they begin. The average sale is around 15,000 to 20,000 pounds.
Okay, so 3,000 is just for one bottle or
barrel, one barrel.
Oh, barrel, okay.
Yeah. Up to about 1 million or 2 million pounds. Yeah.
Barrel. Oh, I just think about oil and nothing more than that.
Well, I mean, that's what it's funny that people if they ask us what we do, we are basically commodity traders. Our commodity never leaves Scotland, though. So it's important to say that if you talk about provenance in an investment, right? Whiskey, it lies in Scotland. It doesn't leave Scotland. It only can leave Scotland once it's in glass. So the whiskey has to be bottled and then it gets exported. But until it leaves, then it's in a government bonded warehouse. It's tracked, it's barcoded, it's it's secure, and everyone involved in the industry has an obligation to make sure it remains that way. And that's why whiskey is so popular, because around the world you know what you're drinking and where it came from.
Yeah, Scottish whiskey is very popular.
Yeah.
How this process is structured? I mean, okay, say I have, I don't know, 10,000 pounds. What should I do? Yeah,
so you approach us and look for what we call a consultation, and we look at the budget, we look at the market, we look at the options we have, and then we also check what's available in our inventory, because we are brokers of casks as well. We also own our own casks, and we can source whatever is needed, whatever is required. So we'll look through options and then discuss probably 5 to 10 options with each client and figure out what they like, and then supply a purchase agreement which they can look over with all the details. Where is the cask lying? You know, is there a photo of the cask? Is there a sample of the cask? All these things. Just go through a checklist of documents to make sure everyone's happy with the, transparency. And then after an agreement's been signed
between me and
between the company and the buyer, yeah, there'll be a certificate, and then you'll be given an online login to our portal, where you can see the cask in the warehouse, and you can see all the information about when it was filled, when it was moved to the warehouse, where it is in the warehouse, all these sort of things. That's the beginning. That's when you own the cask and you purchase the cask. In terms of exiting, we usually recommend people to hold like 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
And when it comes to exiting, we go through a couple of options. The more a company grows, the bigger the liquidity pool gets. The more buyers, the more sellers. So we can often sell through our database, through our online auction platform, bottling into our own projects. So obviously our company bottles casks regularly and sells them on e-commerce. So we often have clients use their casks. We ask for their permission to use their liquid to bottle it for us and then sell, because we have the value. Our value is our brand, which in an individual like yourself, there's no value in you selling bottles because you don't have the reach, whereas our company has the reach, and all we need is spirit. So our clients can supply us with that spirit, which is very useful.
Okay, say, your company goes bankrupt. What happens next?
Yeah, good question. I'm glad you asked it. Obviously, a lot of people have that question on their mind. The good thing about casks is that you know exactly where it is, where you bought it, and where it lies. Technically, if a company goes bankrupt, HMRC, which is the governing tax regime and the tax body in the UK, they have to allocate an owner to that barrel. So if the owner of that barrel goes bankrupt, which is the company, because in effect the company is acting as a custody of the barrel and you are the beneficial owner. That's the terminology you'd say. If the owner of the cask can no longer hold it, the warehouse has an obligation to reach out to the owner, which is you, because you have the certificate, the purchase agreement, there's proof of purchase, and you paid for it, so it's yours. Because we have our own warehouse. We're renting a site up in Scotland, opposite Macallan, in Craigellachie, which is about 3.5 hours north of Edinburgh. And there's 6,000 casks there on site, which around 3,000 are our clients so far. Yeah, but I think that the main thing is you have a legal document, which is a purchase agreement, and you've paid for it. There's proof of that, and you can prove to any warehouse that this cask is yours, not the company's that went bankrupt.
And if I wanna redeem some money before the 3 or 5 year term, what happens next? Yeah,
another good question. I mean, people always, something can happen. You need to remortgage a house, you need to pay for something. So we have clients, some clients have even come back to us after 6 months, or less than a year. And because our market is moving quite fast now, we're able to sort of find a buyer for those casks. We do explain to them though that don't expect too much return, but we've had that scenario quite a few times actually. We just say to them, the longer you hold the order it's getting, the more value there is. If you like to sell, understand the risks in doing so.
And what are the costs of investing in whiskey? I mean, what are the fees?
So we've already discussed the range of the entries. £3,000 to £5,000 up to £2 million. Storage of a cask is around £65 per year, which is free for the first 3 years. And then the insurance is included in that fee as well, the £65. So it's £65 per year for storage insurance. And if you'd like to request a sample of your cask, which many people do, we charge £50 per sample, and we withdraw it and post it to you. You talk about why some casks are quite cheap, £3,000 entry fee. If you have a newborn child, you might buy a cask and then we'd like to give it to them at their wedding in 25 years' time. That's quite a common theme. You know, everyone enters the market for different reasons, whether it's buying for children, buying for wedding, graduation, marriage.
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I understand that whiskey is not about speculation, no way.
No. Yeah, I mean, and
short trading, no way.
That's why it's quite fun, right? I mean, I reckon the market might go that way with indices and short trading, but I don't think that would be good for the market, good for the whiskey industry. We don't, as I said, we don't like to push the topic of investment. I mean, people come to us organically saying, I'd like to buy for a special project, and my bar wants to do its own label, but I also hear you can buy for investment, and we just say to them, do your own research, you know, read a lot, go away and come back again. We never force anyone to buy. I think the best advice is just tell someone to think about it and then really do your own research. And if you still want to do it, then we're happy to help.
For sure. Are there any restrictions for whiskey investment for Russians or the Ukrainians or whatever? Because all that sanctions thing, well, so you can see.
I mean, as far as, and if you talk about tax as well, I mean, in the UK, it's capital gains tax free, but for Russians and Russian-speaking countries, the best thing to do would be to talk to your independent tax advisor. We have had buyers before purchase the casks, and they reach out to their own advice and then get it before buying.
The source of wealth that we are going to invest in whiskey or not?
No, I mean the standards like KYC.
KYC and AML.
Yeah, but
anti-money laundering. And
exactly, yeah, but not. That's more for a bank to know who's buying, but there's no sort of accreditor investor and documentation. Okay. You just have to show us ID and address proof and pay. The funny thing is, you know, it's often clients will say, "Oh, I'd like to only buy 1 or 2 casks," and they end up buying 20. Because it's really, you know, it's such an interesting industry, and it's really in the early stages. If you're getting into it now, there's a lot of benefits to that. Because, you know, let's picture a scenario here. 20 years ago, you're in the boardroom of Macallan. Did Macallan think that in 20 years' time, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Mexico would be big markets? Probably not.
Nope. No way. Whiskey is real. It's not a kind of a counterfeit, and you're not drawing any report.
Yeah, good question. The whole thing I mentioned earlier about provenance is that every cask, when it's born, when it's filled with spirit, it has a barcode registered to that make. So you'll always know the make, which is the distillery, the AYS, which is the age you run your spirit, which is the distillation date, and then it will be recorded into a system, into the warehouse system. And wherever that wort cask goes until it's bottled, has to be recorded legally by the government regulation. HMRC has to know where the cask is at any one time.
So now a lot of industries are facing supply chain problems because of the COVID. Mm-hmm. So what is it like with the whiskey industry?
But internally, no. I mean, Scotland is very independent of, it's sourced in Scotland, it's made in Scotland. The barley is from the UK in most cases. And the dry goods, the products are locally sourced. Okay,
and what about the lockdown consequences for the whiskey industry?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's funny, in lockdown in general, the pandemic sort of economy, a lot of people did look for collectibles, as I said, like watches earlier, watches and jewelry and whiskey. And, a lot of people turned to drink. Yeah, it's weird. But in terms of high end, I mean, people figured, well, I've got this expensive bottle of whiskey or expensive product, I want to enjoy it now, because what else are you going to do? So people started spending more on themselves and looking for alternatives, investments, for example, and diversifying. So I think the whiskey industry, a lot of people turned their interest to the industry because it provided that escape, whether it's I want to buy a nice product, a finished product by a good distillery, mm-hmm. or I want to have something fun, I want to buy a cask. Yeah.
So if I would like to invest some money into whiskey, right now is an exact time just to enter, and the market is far from being mature. So I'm gonna have 11 to 30% per year.
13 years.
13 years, sorry. On average. on average?
As far as our cash reports go, that's what we've documented. Yes, nothing is guaranteed ever. As you know.
Sure, I understand.
Yeah. But, we wanted to do research, and people asked us to look into this, and we did. So I think we'd love to share that information with your viewers. They can see themselves. But yeah, I don't buy thinking I want 10% a year. I just buy because I think the fundamentals. Older whiskey is more valuable. Buy young, hold, and diversify. Yeah. I mean, it's a journey, and we enjoy the journey, and we want you to enjoy the journey as well. It's not about, we don't buy it as an instrument, as a financial instrument. It's just purely, it's multiple, it's tangible. It's fun, it's profitable, and it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, tangible is the most beloved type of investments in Russia, because we love everything that is tangible, like real estate. And whiskey, why not?
Yeah.
And I hope that my subscribers would now understand how the whiskey investments would look like.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay, so Patrick, could you please tell me the story, how you came to the idea to start this whiskey business?
Yeah, so I mean...
whiskey?
Yeah, it's a funny one. I mean, as I am partly Scottish, I went to a whiskey shop many years ago, and 10 years ago. And I was looking at the bar, the shelves, and why is that whiskey expensive? Why is that one cheap? What is the difference? Where's what's the reason behind all this? And I was told about distilleries that had either closed down, demolished, or were popular because of their branding, their marketing. And I was given basically a tour of the whole this sort of sector. And I didn't really realize back then that there'd be a value in this. But I was studying in Russia. My brother was studying in Asia. We bought some bottles to give to our lecturers as a sort of goodbye present. And in doing so, we realized that, wow, this bottle in Edinburgh is so much cheaper than London. Why is there this, difference? And we looked into it more. We discovered that this was a, opportunity. And then I joined this company, Cascade 88, about 5 years later. And Cascade 8 was doing this on a much larger scale to clients all around the world, and predominantly in Hong Kong and China, which is a very exciting market to be in. So I just naturally got on this course, and this wave of whiskey investment by, first of all, liking it, drinking it, and then in doing so realizing there's real value in these bottles, because you can't buy time. You can never buy more time. So this 32-year-old bottles of whiskey, 35-year-old bottles of whiskey are always going to be of that. You can't make them again. So in that aspect, there's inherent value.
It's kind of a gold, so to speak.
Gold,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but whiskey,
platinum, silver, whatever. So some kind of precious metal. Yeah,
but yeah, whiskey has a sort of this following that the gold doesn't get, because it's so, you can add value so easily. As we talked about earlier, you can see how a cask isn't just a simple cask. It can be something, with a better label. It can be a different finish of wood, sherry, port, wine, and all these sort of things that make whiskey more special. And as the market matures, more experiments will be done and more special things will be created.
Oh yeah, it's not possible with gold. No. And what are we going to try today?
Yes, so I've poured you a glass of Lagavulin, 12-year-old. It's a cask strength, so it's quite... Normally whiskey on the mass market is bottled at 43% or 40%, mostly 43%, but cask strength is around 57.8%. Oh. So,
quite heavy.
But it's from Islay, Isla's the most popular region actually amongst our customers, because of it's just got that distinctive smell. If I'm in Moscow right now, I can smell this and I'm immediately taken to Scotland. And that is Scotland in a glass. It's quite nice, that sort of romanticism behind it, that it can transport you there.
Oh yeah, it's unusual.
Yeah, so you have a kind of floral notes, peaty as well. The peat is a distinctive smell there. And then I've got a glass of Glenallachie, 9-year-old. And when you drink in Scotland, you say, instead of cheers, we say slange. And that's the beauty of whiskey. You can explore so many different brands, different casks, different. You know, if you buy a bottle of William Lawson's in this shop, that is one of 100,000 bottles or 200,000 bottles. A single cask is only ever going to be a single cask, only ever going to be 300 bottles, and that's it, done. So that's where the interest is and the value is there, because you can't repeat it, you can't make time, and all these things that make it more attractive.
So it is always unique.
Always unique, yeah. It's a unique, fun, and tangible investment, yeah.
Well, thanks for your time, and I'm gonna invest in whiskey. I like it.
Welcome.
Basically.
Yeah.
Ну что ж, друзья, я надеюсь, что теперь вы узнали о мире виски немножко больше. Очень жаль, что вас нет рядом, потому что вы это не чувствуете, это реально круто. И я надеюсь, что теперь вы узнали, что виски – это не только инвестиции в себя, но это еще и очень интересный способ диверсификации вашего портфеля, который достаточно стабилен, имеет низкую корреляцию с классическими классами активов и весьма доступен с точки зрения минимального порога входа. Про Патрика и его компанию ссылочку я оставлю в описании, можете почитать более детально. Если вам понравилось, поставьте лайк и пошерьте этот ролик с друзьями. Ну и, естественно, если у вас есть какие-то пожелания, про что мне рассказать в следующий раз, в том числе из альтернативных активов, то напишите, и с наступающим!